let me introduce to the Nikon Theater stage, wedding photographer out of Brooklyn, New York, with his wife as part of the business. Photography, the boundless medium. Ladies and gentlemen, Joshua Dwain.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Hi, everyone. For those people who believe in prayer, say a quick prayer for me, because I am a little anxious, okay? Thank you. So, as Mike introduced me, my name is Josh Dwain. I am a content producer, photographer, and director based in Brooklyn, New York, alongside my wife, Anika. We love shooting weddings as well. We also have a studio, so our business is primarily in portraits, weddings, and content producing, okay? Before I begin, and I'll be remiss if I didn't say so, I want to thank Nikon for allowing me to speak this year. I've been a long-time consumer of Nikon education, and I'm really happy to be here to share what I've learned with you over the years, inspire other photographers as well. And I also want to thank all the other photographers who have poured into me, believed in me over the years. It's been a long journey as a photographer, so I want to also thank you guys as well. Okay, so photography, the boundless medium. I told a bunch of friends what my talk was going to be about, and they asked what this meant. So I'll give you a quick rundown right now as my intro. So as a wedding photographer and a working wedding photographer who worked every single weekend shooting up to 45 weddings a year, I found myself only shooting weddings only and all the time. And why that became a problem was because I started photography not because I wanted to be a wedding photographer. I started photography because I loved the art of photography. I love capturing moments. I love telling stories. So I'm here today to talk to you photographers out there about photography and it being a boundless medium and not necessarily so niched that you only need to do what you're getting paid for, okay? So let's start. So photography serves as a visual manifestation of what holds importance within. Okay? Notice a mouthful, but my opinion about what photography is, it's a visual representation or the manifestation of what I feel as the photographer. Has very little to do with the subject, has nothing to do with what I'm capturing. It's what I hold important as a photographer. So let's take a second to analyze this photo. This is a photo of a man and a boy. I don't know who took the photo. I have no idea who took it, but we can see they're in the street, sort of an urban setting maybe. From a technical standpoint, arms are cut off, heads cut off. That really doesn't matter. What I do want to talk to you about is what I feel is important about this particular photo. Now, you might look at this photo and kind of see that maybe that's his son, maybe, we don't know, but we can tell that there's an embrace. He's holding him. He probably can't hold him with his hand because he has something in his hand. Maybe he's across the street, running across the street. You can't tell. However, I can tell what was important to the photographer in this picture. And what was important to the photographer in this picture was the embrace of a man and possibly his son. And if we want to take it even further, a direct embrace or relationship between a father and a son, okay? So going back to my quote earlier on, photography is a manifestation of what the photographer holds deep within. So what I can tell about this photo is that the photographer cares about relationships. The photographer cares about stories. And ultimately, that's what we consume. We consume the story of the photographer and not necessarily the relationship here. We just know as photographers that there's a relationship and there's something to be captured here, and that's what I'm showing you with this photo. Next, I'm going to show you a brief slideshow of work that my wife and I have done over the years. Take a look. I hope you enjoy. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so everyone raise your right hands. Right hands? Okay, I want you to cover half this photo right here. And I want you to completely block out the right side. Don't even look at the right side, okay? So when I was creating this image, this is what sort of was the driving force, this shadow on the wall here, right? And like I said, photography is a manifestation of what you hold within. You can tell from this photo that I like a little, I don't want to say I like kink, all right? But there's a little added flair that I like for these photos. Initially, we saw a shadow on the wall, and we want to capture that shadow. But by taking a step back, surveying everything, we realized that we can layer the couple with, the bride's legs, the groom's legs, and a full body shot of the shadow. Sort of like a juxtaposed position between reality, but a little bit of playfulness, and a shadow. For this particular photo is a photo I captured a few years ago in India. Again, a manifestation of what a photographer holds within, the story. I love James Bond films, Tom Cruise films, Mission Impossible, things like that. So when I'm in this sort of like environment in India, and I heard the motorcycle coming across, and I framed up, and luckily, I got this shot. And what I love about it, the burning garbage in the street, sort of the light, what do you call it, electrical cords in the background, the dirt, the grunge. It's sort of realness. I was able to capture the realness of the environment, something that really means a lot to me, the story. Okay, so talking about photography, the boundless medium. In order to be boundless in your genre of photography, it's important to go beyond your comfort zone. A lot of times, as photographers, we stick to our niche. We don't necessarily dabble in other things. How many people are wedding photographers? How many people are portrait photographers? Usually those two stick together. Any portrait photographers, any product photographers here? Any videographers here that do photography and video? Sometimes we sort of get the next genre that's really closely related to our genre, primary genre, but we don't necessarily step outside of our comfort zone to sort of explore. Remember, when we started photography, for most people, when they start photography, it's a curious sort of evolution of wanting to experiment in something, but it's never weddings. I have never met a photographer that has said, I want to do weddings when I start, before not knowing anything about photography. It's generally like capturing pictures of kids or family. I started taking pictures of sneakers. That was how my career started. So I want to share how you can sort of go beyond your comfort zone, learn new things, and broaden your horizons as a photographer. So here is a project that I started very long time ago when I realized I was only shooting weddings and I needed to do something a little bit different. I started to shoot mannequins wherever I saw them. And I'm all about story, so I gave my mannequins a story. My story for the mannequins were that they were trying to assimilate in our society, and they wanted to watch us live our daily lives. And these mannequins would one day take over. One day these mannequins will be turned into AI, they'll turn into robots. Because they've been watching us all these years, they will sort of assimilate in a society much easier than one would think. And the purpose of the project was just to get out, just to do something different. Just to do something that was different than white dresses, tuxedos, screaming kids on the weekends, engagement sessions. I wanted to mix up my portfolio and sort of do something. And for the most part, it wasn't about creating the best image. It's never about that. It's going beyond your comfort zone to experience something that you don't typically do and that you're not getting paid for. Sounds weird, right? I'm telling you do photography you're not getting paid for. Please don't walk out. And what I also noticed that mannequins were all different. I knew nothing about mannequins prior to this project. I just said, let me go out and take pictures wherever I could, snap pictures on a daily basis, and just try to get pictures that included mannequins and humans at the same time, just to tell the story that I was trying to make. Now, will this get an award? Will it win Icon Awards at WPPI? Is Jerry around? Maybe not. But that's not the point. The point is sort of mental exercise, creative exercise, building yourself up on a regular basis as a photographer, because that's the point. At the end of the day, we're not portrait or wedding or product or event or whatever. We're not those photographers. At the end of the day, we are photographers, okay? Here's another project that I did shortly after the first one, and it was just about bikes in New York City. That's all it was. And as I started shooting it, I started realizing that bikes were dying every day in New York City, right? So this is sort of like the bicycle graveyard all across New York City. Again, it's not about the best pictures, not about being creative. It's just sort of getting myself to a place where I felt comfortable shooting photography that wasn't only wedding photography. This is like bikes and mannequins all at the same time. Stepping outside of your comfort zone. So one other tip that you can get to step out of your comfort zone, I feel like I don't shoot my best in New York City, taking street photography. I'm not the best. New Yorkers are kind of aggressive, and taking pictures of people can be scary. But when I do travel, I find myself capturing photos of the environment, capturing culture, and you don't necessarily have to do that either. But I find myself when I'm going on vacation or I'm traveling to a new city, I will bring my camera and a walk-around camera. I'm not talking about bringing the Z9 or the Z8 or the 750, 780. I'm not talking about bringing those cameras. I will walk around with a Z30, Nikon's point-and-shoot camera, just to snap pictures. It's not about the best picture. It's not about winning awards. It's about capturing the moment and telling stories. You can do this in your city as well. You can pick something and pick a color. Every time you see the color blue, I want to shoot the color blue, right? Every time I want to see blue cars or see blue cars, I'm going to capture blue cars, you know? Here's a photo we took in Thailand, and it was just workers. I saw interesting composition. I probably snapped 10 pictures that day, right? It's about keeping that mental idea that photography is boundless and not necessarily about your niche. I feel like this is the Central Park lady from Home Alone. You know that lady with the birds? I felt like her, like wings, she's doing the same thing as the birds. I do enjoy, like I said, embracing other cultures and seeing other things, but it's really not about the culture, it's about seeing things differently and exposing yourself outside of your comfort zone. For me, this picture, I absolutely love this picture because it's the one who's getting ready to go to the party and the two others that are leaving the party. We shot this in India. Anybody heard of the Holi Festival in India? It's where they spray all the dyes and the powders all over random people. I left looking like these guys, and I wasn't even part of it. We just wanted to go out and shoot and like I said, telling stories. Saw this guy, he was clean, suited to the boot, all white, and these guys are all colorful, leaving the party, and he's headed that direction. Some more photos of the same holiday event. Again, just telling stories with photographs that are completely different from your niche. Okay, so let's talk about cross-genre application. So because I'm a wedding photographer, and there are a few well, let me not say I'm a wedding photographer. I am a photographer, because that's what we're talking about. Because I'm a photographer, I've learned that there are some things in other genres that I can do semi-well because I shoot weddings. Wedding photographers have to be portrait photographers, they have to be event photographers, they have to be portrait photographers, they have to be event planners at times. So there are a few sort of techniques that you can use as a wedding photographer or as a photographer, and it spans multiple genres. For example, for me, I absolutely love this photo. It's all about the leading lines. It's a graphical image. I mean, if you were to sort of like take the circle, just like zero in just a couple, there's nothing special to it. But once you see something that's sort of graphical and aesthetic with leading lines directly to the subject and sort of like the juxtaposition with the reflection on the bottom, it becomes interesting. And this is a simple photo. It's just a cell phone at the bottom of the screen. Probably got that trick from Kanayo. Maybe not, maybe you got it from me, but we won't talk about it. It's just a cell phone at the bottom to reflect the ceiling above, right? But this is a technique that I've learned throughout my career as a wedding photographer that I can implement when I go out on the street or when I travel. I can use leading lines to lead directly to my subject. Or I can compose them right in the center of my frame so that everything in my frame and everything in the composition leads directly to my subject. Here's another photo that I absolutely love. It's not the best and it won't win any awards, but I love it because it shows the relationship of my couple. She takes care of him, no matter how much he looks like a little boy, right? We just finished our portraits and they kissed. And he had her lipstick all over his face. And what does she do? She treats him like she's his son. And she wipes his lipstick off. And what that taught me was, in wedding photography, that you always gotta stay on your feet. The same thing happens when you're doing street photography or you're exploring, right? We saw these kids playing soccer in Cuba, and I got in position to take the shot. And what I love about this was, the decisive moment of this, the ball is not on the floor, it's not touching the shadow. He's in motion kicking the ball, and you can see his two friends on the right, their shadows waiting to receive the ball on the other side. So what weddings have taught me is that I need to be quick on my feet and make a firm decision when I commit to taking a photo. The next thing weddings taught me was to, take pictures that are a little bit more graphical, that are not necessarily literal all the time. How to use light in certain situations to sort of mix up my portfolio or mix up the work that I'm giving for my clients. That same technique I can use when I'm in a train in India and I see somebody in the next train right beside me at the stop and I see a silhouette. I'm able to sort of identify and not expose for the highlights, but expose for the shadows so that I can get a silhouette. Another thing is composition. How am I telling a story? Obviously, these guys are looking in the water for something, but you can sort of surmise that this young man over here is also looking at what they're looking at, right? So it's all about storytelling. You can tell what's important to me is the story for this shot. And I learned that in weddings, because sometimes I'm shooting the bride and groom and it sort of gets boring. You're just shooting them dancing and the song is 5 minutes long. Sometimes you just want to mix things up and get a different perspective of how you would capture this if you were the photographer yourself. Another example of silhouettes and perspectives, where you see this guy looking to the right as he's walking away, or he's walking towards my camera. And I know I'm framing up for this because I love this silhouette. I think this looks beautiful. There's a sunset, there's people in the background, the clouds look amazing, and my goal was to capture this, but I saw this guy running in my shot, and I snapped at that moment because it looks like they're looking right. It's almost like a face-off. We do that same thing all the times in weddings. Some people are like, hey, can I get a sunset shot? Can I get a silhouette shot? I really like the buildings in New York. We do that all the time. So there are things I've learned in weddings that I can apply to my creativity as a photographer or a creative. Genre exploration. So this is interesting. Remember we talked about making no money? When you're exploring and doing new things as a photographer, sometimes you don't make any money. But it's also important that you're exploring for yourself. Right? Sometimes money can cloud things, and listen, don't get me wrong, get your money, right? I want to get money all the time. But the reality is we don't do certain things because money is what hampers us. We got to feed our kids, we got to feed our family, right? We got to pay our mortgage, we got to pay insurance for our gear, we got to buy new lenses. But for me, it's also important as a photographer to explore other genres, do different things. And I don't do them regularly, to be honest with you. It's probably 2 times a year I'm trying to do something really different. But those 2 times a year matter, right? Because I'm breaking up the monotony of what I do on a daily basis. I'm staying curious, right? It's a curveball to what I typically do. It means I gotta stay on my toes, okay? Here's a photo shoot that I did for this watch company. One of my clients owns this watch company, and he asked me to take some photos. He asked me what my charge was gonna be. I said nothing, right? I think this came out great. I didn't charge him anything because I'm not an expert at shooting watches. So what did I do? I took my time to learn how to light. I took my time to learn how to pose the cameras, if you will. Sorry, pose the watches, if you will. Just so I can broaden my skill set and learn what I don't know. Like I said, genre exploration, I learned that I need, what's that thing where you can break up the focus? Somebody knows what I'm talking about. You can do different focus on different planes. What's that thing, Roy? Focus stacking, yes. I learned in this shoot that I need focus stacking in order to do this properly. I would have never known that if I didn't explore a different genre to do product photography. Now, do I have a career in product photography? Absolutely not. I don't want to be a product photographer. But I know I'm a photographer. I know that I love challenges. I know that I love curveballs. And I want to do something different all the time than a bride and groom, or bride and bride, or groom and groom. Here's another shoot that will never see the light of day unless it was for WPPI. It's another product shoot. Like I said, I started taking pictures of shoes. I did this about 2 years ago, and I lit this horribly. I learned that it takes way more than 2 lights to just do product shoots. I needed a rim light on the backside to break up the black of the background and the shoes. I need another light just for the soles, right? But the reality is I'm not doing this because I want to make money from it. I'm doing this because it's a hobby of mine. I'm doing this to explore another genre, to learn something for myself as a photographer, and something I can add as a toolkit if for whatever reason I get to a wedding and a bride is like, I want a shoe shot just like that. I'm like, listen, you can't do that. It's not going to work, all right? One thing that's been really pivotal for me is Pinterest. I think God made Pinterest, I'll be honest with you. I pin religiously, and if I'm not pinning, I'm screenshotting on Instagram, and I'm adding to my own secret boards because I'm constantly inspired by other photographers, right? From time to time, I will pin things that I want to do personally, when I get a shoot that I need to produce myself. A really good friend the other day encouraged me to send this Pinterest board to my clients to inspire them, especially things like maternity shoots that I absolutely love doing. She encouraged me to send them out to my expecting mothers so that they can be inspired instead of looking at maternity shoots. So it's also important when you're doing genre exploration to look at other work of other photographers that are not in your genre, right? I did a social media cleanse a few years ago, and what I did was I deleted or muted a lot of photographers, especially wedding photographers, that wasn't serving my creative exploration. And it wasn't done, maliciously, but it was done so that I can see things that inspire me on a regular basis. Because be honest with you, how many times on Instagram are we a day? We're on it a lot, right? So the point is, that when you're doing genre exploration, do it with the mindset that you want to be curious, all right? Here are some photos of maternity sessions that I've done that I've been inspired by fashion photographers. I've been inspired by other portrait photographers, other maternity photographers, right? I mean, if you look online, you don't really see maternity sessions that look like this. I was heavily inspired by fashion photographers and their lighting and their mood and their tones. Again, same thing. I love to draw inspiration from other genres of photography because it helps me in what I do. So if you know me, I love Men's Health magazine. I think they get the best photographers of their publication. And it's a breath of fresh air for me personally because a lot of times we see photographers and we're seeing people who are shooting women predominantly. Magazines are you know, Elle, Vogue, it's all women. I love Men's Health because it breaks up the monotony of just seeing fashion photos of, you know, high-end supermodels. I wanted to do a shoot that was sort of Men's Health inspired, and I looked to, you know, magazines to help me through it, to work through it, to pick what I want. And to be honest with you, I'm exploring a genre that I really don't have a hardcore fan base in, or a hardcore presence in, if you will. Okay, lastly, I want to talk about the creative mindset. The creative mindset is really just us hampering ourselves, right? Photography, the boundless medium, the reality is we stand in our own way as photographers. All we do is do what we do for work, or we're trying to get more work, and we're trying to impress other people, and we're trying to do other things. But the reality is, we didn't start our genres we didn't start photography well, maybe you did, I don't know, I didn't. I didn't start photography to make money, I'll be honest with you. I started at 15 years old, okay? I did it because the love of the art, the love of the genre. So what my advice to anyone in the creative mindset that we should take on going forward, especially in 2024, is to be curious, to take a step back. The work is gonna come. Take a step back as photographers and embrace the attitude of being curious of what is around us, to question things, to seek out new opportunities, to highlight that. I want to highlight to you the importance of experimenting, doing new things. If you have your cameras here, I will urge you to just pick something, one inanimate object, and the color red, tall people, and shoot them from now until you get to the airport, just because you want to do something different. Thank you, everyone. That was my talk. Photography,
Ladies and gentlemen,
medium.
Joshua Dwain.
Thank you, guys.